Nobody warns you about this part. They talk about finding yourself like it's peaceful, like it's calming, like it's freeing from the start. But what they don't tell you is that becoming yourself hurts. It hurts because you have to let go of who you pretended to be. It hurts because comfort was never honest. It was just familiar. If you're feeling lost, overwhelmed, or like everything is falling apart, you might not be failing. You might be becoming. Facing the truth about yourself is rarely gentle. It arrives like a storm, tearing through the illusions you've built to protect yourself, leaving nothing but raw reality behind. At first, it feels unbearable, almost cruel. You look in the mirror and see the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. The fears, the compromises, the ways you've been pretending to be someone else to fit in, to survive, to be loved. And it's painful because the truth exposes everything you've hidden, everything you've justified, everything you've been too afraid to confront. You want comfort, you want reassurance, but the truth doesn't negotiate. It demands that you face it fully, without excuses, without escape, without softening it to make it easier to swallow. The discomfort of truth is not just psychological, it's physical. Your body tenses, your mind races, your chest tightens, and a deep unease settles into your bones. It's a sensation that shakes your equilibrium because nothing in your life can remain the same once you recognize what isn't working. The habits you cling to, the relationships you endure out of fear, the identity you perform to meet other people's expectations, all of it becomes unbearable. You start to see where you've compromised yourself, where you've lied, where you've hidden your own desires to avoid conflict or rejection. And that realization is painful because it's unavoidable. You can no longer ignore it, and pretending it doesn't exist only intensifies the pressure. The paradox of truth is that it hurts precisely because it matters. If it didn't matter, it wouldn't provoke such strong emotions. The more attached you are to the illusions, the more violent the confrontation becomes when reality breaks through. It exposes the difference between the life you're living and the life you could be living, between the version of yourself you've settled for and the person you are capable of becoming. And in that exposure, there is a sense of loss of comfort, loss of security, loss of certainty. It feels like grief for parts of yourself you thought you could hold on to, but you discover that they were never truly yours. They were borrowed, fabricated, or forced. Yet even in the intensity of this pain, there is a strange kind of liberation, because once the truth has been fully seen, once the illusions have been confronted, there is clarity. You begin to understand where change is necessary, where boundaries must be drawn, where courage is required. The initial agony of facing the truth is not the end. It is the opening, the violent but necessary rupture that allows growth, self-understanding, and genuine transformation. It forces you out of denial, out of half-truths, and into the realm of honest action. Growth is never a gentle process. It asks for more than effort or intention. It demands sacrifice. To become who you are meant to be, you must be willing to let go of the things that no longer serve you, the familiar comforts that have kept you safe but stagnant, and even relationships that once felt necessary. Growth requires loss because it is impossible to move forward while holding on to what anchors you to the past. Every step toward authenticity requires shedding a layer of identity that has become obsolete, whether it is a habit, a belief, or a version of yourself that you outgrew without realizing it. And the realization of this loss is always jarring because human beings are wired to resist letting go, to cling to stability, and to avoid pain. The losses that come with growth are rarely obvious at first. They are subtle, insidious, creeping in through the cracks of your life. You notice a friendship fading because your values no longer align, or a career path losing its meaning as your ambitions evolve. Sometimes the losses are louder and unavoidable. A relationship ends, an opportunity disappears, or a familiar environment shifts beyond recognition. Each loss carries with it a kind of grief because it represents a portion of your past self, a piece of your comfort zone, and a sense of identity that you have known for years. The pain is real because it is rooted in attachment, in the sense of security that comes from knowing where you fit, even if it was never truly yours. Yet, loss is not a punishment. It is a mechanism of transformation. Without it, there is no space for new growth to take root. Every time something falls away, you create room for something that aligns more closely with your evolving self. The discomfort you feel is the signal that change is happening, that your inner landscape is shifting to accommodate a version of you that is stronger, wiser, and more authentic. The sacrifices you make, the letting go of people, beliefs, or routines are not meaningless. They are the price of growth. And it is not just the tangible things you lose that matter. You also shed illusions about yourself, others, and the world. You confront the ways you've been pretending, avoiding responsibility, or clinging to comfort at the expense of truth. This kind of loss is even more profound because it reshapes your perception, forcing you to see life in a harsher but more honest light. Growth requires this dismantling because without it, the person you are trying to become cannot emerge fully into the world. Responsibility is one of the heaviest burdens a human being can carry, not because it is inherently painful, but because it removes all of the comfortable excuses we have used to avoid facing ourselves. To truly take responsibility means to acknowledge that your life, your choices, and your suffering are yours and yours alone. No one else can bear the weight for you, and no one else can fix what you refuse to confront. It is a heavy realization because it strips away the illusions of control that we cling to, the belief that if only the circumstances were different, if only people were different, if only life were easier, then we could finally be happy. Responsibility refuses to let us hide behind external factors. It demands that we look inward and admit that much of what we experience is the result of our own actions, decisions, and inactions. When you take responsibility, you quickly realize how much power you have squandered in the pursuit of comfort. Every excuse you have used to delay growth, every avoidance of discomfort, every denial of truth is revealed for what it is, a voluntary surrender of your own potential. And that revelation is heavy because it is tied to regret. You see the opportunities you ignored, the relationships you mishandled, the moments when courage could have changed your trajectory, and now the responsibility to repair, adjust, or accept falls squarely on your shoulders. There is no one to blame, no scapegoat, and no way to outsource the work. This weight presses on you because it is constant. It follows you in every decision, every interaction, every moment of reflection. Yet, the heaviness of responsibility is not just about accountability for past actions. It is about ownership of your future. To accept responsibility is to accept that your life is malleable, that your circumstances are shaped by the choices you make, and that change is possible only when you act deliberately. That realization can be terrifying because it eliminates the comfort of passivity. No longer can you claim helplessness. No longer can you wait for someone else to fix things. The burden lies in knowing that the quality of your life is in your hands, and that you cannot escape the consequences of avoiding that truth. Every choice becomes significant. Every moment demands awareness, and every failure is a mirror reflecting what you must confront within yourself. And in the midst of this heaviness, there is clarity. Responsibility is heavy precisely because it is transformative. It is the weight of your own agency, the gravity of your own freedom, and the undeniable truth that only by carrying this burden can you cultivate the strength, integrity, and authenticity necessary to live a life that belongs entirely to you. Isolation is one of the inevitable byproducts of personal growth, yet it is one of the most misunderstood aspects of becoming yourself. When you begin to pursue authenticity, when you start shedding the layers of conformity and comfort that once defined you, the people around you often cannot follow. They are attached to the version of you that existed before, the one that fit into their expectations, accommodated their needs, and avoided confrontation. As you step into your truth, as you make choices aligned with your values and your vision, there is a natural separation. The friendships, relationships, and connections that were never rooted in genuine understanding begin to fade, not because of malice or failure, but because growth is inherently isolating. It demands that you stand alone, even if only for a time, to understand who you truly are without external influence. This isolation is uncomfortable because human beings are social creatures, and the pull of belonging is strong. There is a natural instinct to seek approval, to avoid conflict, and to remain within communities that validate us. But when you grow, that instinct is challenged. The more you embrace your own path, the more you realize that not everyone will support it, and some will actively resist it. Their resistance is not always a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their inability or unwillingness to confront their own truths. And the loneliness that accompanies this realization can be crushing because it forces you to confront yourself in a way you never have before. There are no distractions, no borrowed purpose, no pretense, just the unfiltered experience of being fully accountable for your choices, your growth, and your existence. Yet the isolation is not merely punitive, it is formative. In the quiet moments alone, away from the noise of expectations and external pressures, you begin to hear yourself. You start to notice what drives you, what excites you, what terrifies you, and what you cannot compromise. It is in these periods of solitude that character is forged, resilience is built, and clarity emerges. The absence of constant external validation forces you to become self-reliant, to cultivate your own judgment, and to trust your own instincts. You learn to find comfort, not in the approval of others, but in the alignment between your actions and your inner truth. This process can feel excruciating because it is a profound test of patience, courage, and endurance. It challenges your need for connection while simultaneously shaping the very foundation upon which authentic connection can one day be built. Through isolation, you begin to understand that your true relationships will only flourish when they are based on genuine understanding rather than convenience or fear, and that the discomfort you feel now is the crucible in which your independence and integrity are formed. Suffering is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life because it feels chaotic, unfair, and often unbearable. We try to avoid it, deny it, or numb ourselves from it, yet suffering is an unavoidable part of existence. The truth is that suffering is not meaningless. It is a signal, a teacher, and a guide. When life hurts, when the weight of reality presses down, it forces us to confront ourselves and the world with an honesty that comfort could never inspire. Pain strips away pretense, exposes weakness, and illuminates the areas of our lives where we have avoided responsibility, authenticity, or growth. It is brutal because it is precise. Suffering targets the places where change is necessary, even if we are too blind, stubborn, or afraid to see it on our own. The meaning in suffering is not always obvious in the moment. Often it feels random and cruel, as if life is punishing us without reason. But when we examine it closely, we begin to see patterns, lessons, and insights embedded within the hardship. Suffering forces self-reflection. It compels us to ask difficult questions. Why am I here? Why am I repeating the same mistakes? What am I avoiding? What am I afraid to admit about myself? These questions are uncomfortable because they reveal truths we may have been unwilling to face, but they are necessary. Without them, we continue to stumble through life, numbing ourselves with distraction, conformity, or temporary comforts, never learning, never evolving, never becoming. Moreover, suffering shapes strength and resilience in ways that pleasure and ease cannot. When you endure hardship and confront it fully, you discover capacities within yourself that were previously unknown. You learn to carry weight without breaking, to make decisions under pressure, and to tolerate discomfort without running from it. This development of character is not abstract. It is tangible, forged in the trials of daily life, in the losses, the betrayals, the failures, and the moments when the world feels indifferent to your pain. Through suffering, you acquire depth, clarity, and the ability to act from a place of understanding rather than avoidance. Suffering also provides a framework for meaning because it connects us to the larger human experience. Everyone endures loss, grief, fear, and disappointment, but those who engage with their suffering rather than flee from it begin to understand the universality of human struggle. Pain becomes a teacher, guiding decisions, shaping priorities, and forcing alignment between values and actions. It is never convenient, and it is rarely welcomed, but it is a necessary catalyst for transformation. The lessons embedded in suffering are subtle and often uncomfortable, but they are undeniable, demanding attention, demanding reflection, and demanding change. True freedom is rarely gentle or easy to attain. It is not a state of convenience or comfort. It is something hard-won through persistence, courage, and above all, discomfort. To be free in the deepest sense means that you are no longer controlled by fear, habit, or the expectations of others. It means that your actions, choices, and values are aligned with who you genuinely are, rather than what is convenient, safe, or socially acceptable. But this alignment is not accidental, and it does not come without cost. Freedom demands confrontation with yourself, with reality, and with the discomfort that naturally arises when you refuse to compromise your integrity. Every step toward true freedom involves pushing past resistance, enduring tension, and choosing what is difficult over what is easy. Discomfort is the crucible in which freedom is forged. When you challenge yourself to act despite fear, to speak the truth despite judgment, or to live authentically despite rejection, you are practicing the very muscle of liberty. Growth, responsibility, and self-awareness all carry inherent discomfort because they confront long-standing habits, illusions, and dependencies. The more you cling to comfort, the more your freedom is compromised. You may feel secure in avoidance, but that security is a cage disguised as ease. Real freedom requires a willingness to experience tension, to tolerate unease, and to accept the vulnerability that comes with doing what is necessary rather than what is convenient. Discomfort also teaches discipline and self-reliance. When life becomes difficult, when external support fades, or when others fail to understand you, the only tool you have is your own judgment and resilience. Freedom is earned not by the absence of difficulty, but by the ability to navigate it with integrity. Every uncomfortable decision, every boundary drawn, and every moment spent facing reality head-on strengthens your autonomy. It trains you to act according to principle rather than impulse, to resist short-term satisfaction in favor of long-term alignment, and to find security not in external circumstances but in your own competence and conviction. Ultimately, the relationship between freedom and discomfort is inseparable. Freedom is not a gift that can be handed to you. It is a state of being that emerges when you have faced your limitations, endured uncertainty, and embraced the discomfort inherent in becoming fully yourself. The world does not make this easy. Society rewards conformity, complacency, and avoidance. And yet those who are willing to endure discomfort, who are willing to act courageously, embrace responsibility, and live authentically, begin to experience a liberation that is profound and enduring. It is a freedom that cannot be taken away because it is grounded in self-mastery, clarity, and the relentless commitment to live according to truth. Becoming yourself is not easy, and the journey will test you in every way, but every loss, every moment of discomfort, and every truth you face brings you closer to freedom. Embrace the pain, stand in your responsibility, and step fully into the life that is truly yours.